Welcome to Alaska Weather, a production of Alaska Public Media and the National Weather Service, Alaska Region. Produced and broadcast daily from the studios of KAKM, Alaska Weather provides complete forecasts, public, marine, and aviation for all of Alaska. Alaska Weather is made possible by the following sponsors.
Sometimes the best way to find a living is to stay right where you are and study with UAS online. Career-specific distance programs from the University of Alaska Southeast are the fastest way to increase your earning power.
We connect all over the world.
The National Weather Service.
Good evening, everyone, and thanks again for joining us here today for Friday's edition of Alaska Weather. I'm Dave Percy. Up first again, the schedule of Alaska Weather now each night, 5:30 APB ARCS, and also up there in the interior, KUAC 9.4 at 5:30, North 360 North 7:30, and Alaska Public Media at 5 a.m. the next morning, and posted to YouTube by 8 p.m. every day. And satellite imagery shows some clouds here with what was a front back to the west yesterday, breaking up, and several surges of moisture flowing on northward there across the western interior. Just basically high stuff through here. Lots of sunshine down to the south and to the east, and then a good storm system rolling northward there just west of Nikolsky and east of Atka, with a pretty strong frontal system pushing into the Alaska Peninsula with gusty winds, rain heavy at times, spreading up toward the Pribilof Islands along with increasing winds there. And a lot of cloudiness there through the Bering Strait on up into the Chukchi Sea, but sunshine here down along the southeast coast, except right there, upper level thing here, keeping some showers in over the southern areas this afternoon, but sunshine, windy conditions up to the north, sunshine North Gulf Coast, Prince William Sound in the southeast interior, with again, obviously high pressure here over the northeast Pacific right into the interior, with the flow up over the top there, keeping again more clouds on up in the northern latitudes. And rolling that again, can see a disturbance here just kind of grazing the eastern Arctic coast, mostly dropping into Mackenzie River Bay there off to the east, but that brought some showers along the eastern Arctic coast this afternoon. Low and for today, on the chart today, here's the scattered showers and clouds down over the southern southeast coast associated with a surface low here just right over the Queen Charlotte's upper level low, a little bit farther back to the north there. That's going to be dropping southward. It is dropping southward now, so that'll probably be ending and clearing out later on. A lot of clear skies, those gusty north to northeast winds across much of the Panhandle today, 25, 35 gusts, 50 or more in the more channeled areas here, beginning to lay down a little bit up to the north there with the high pressure in over the Yukon. Out over the Gulf of Alaska, light winds, sunshine across southern Alaska, the light winds all the way up to the Arctic coast there. Again, then you run into those showers, light precipitation there on the eastern coast as this thing actually came up from the south, worked over the top, and now heading eastward there. And the milder conditions keeping the precipitation in the form of rain up in that area. And areas of moisture here in that southeasterly flow sliding on up, bringing some light rain and fog, drizzle up to the southern Seward Peninsula. Southern Seward Peninsula, St. Lawrence Island, on back down the southwest coast. Even had some radar echoes showing up over western Bristol Bay there, probably associated with this moisture and these stronger winds. Head of that front, winds gusting over 60 miles an hour in the greater Cold Bay area today, with rain heavy at times, inch of rain falling in the last 24 hours or more from Adak all the way over to the western Alaska Peninsula around Cold Bay. False Pass picking up about 1 3/4 inches in the last 24 hours with this frontal system. Winds dropping off back to the northwest there, 40 to 60 miles an hour in gusts coming across the central Aleutians, and then diminishing back where there's higher pressure out over the southwest Bering. And for tonight, southeast coast, just some leftover clouds here, but the shower is gone off to the east or down to the southeast. Wind slowly diminishing here across the area with as the higher pressure pulls off to the east, and the pressures actually fall up here a little bit over the Yukon. Otherwise, no change here. North Gulf Coast, central interior areas all the way up to the Arctic coast. Except you'll lose the showers there. That kind of drops off into that area right there. And not too bad up through here, but winds on the increase versus the clouds. Then the winds at Kodiak Island, winds increasing across all of the western interior tonight, so about the Alaska Range westward. Storm warnings out tonight along the southwest coast. Storm warnings end here over the Alaska Peninsula as the front pulls eastward. Winds become more southwest, west-southwesterly and diminish. Rain changes to showers on back toward the eastern Aleutians, but the Fox Islands see that northwest or west-northwest wind actually increase here. That tighter gradient, again shifting from the central Aleutians today eastward. Rain, Pribilof Islands, right up to St. Lawrence Island there, but the rain looks like it'll be restricted right along the coastline here. But the winds picking up right up into the Bering Strait and even up over the Chukchi Sea areas, but again staying light in the west, and the next system there pushing into the western Aleutian areas. And then for tomorrow, that front kind of rotating right in across Bristol Bay there, so pretty good southeast winds, 40 to 50 knots ahead of that from the southwest coast down into the area southwest of Kodiak Island. Winds picking up there even into the western Gulf of Alaska, mostly back to the west. So as rain surges into Kodiak northward tomorrow, across the southern Kenai Peninsula and into Cook Inlet tomorrow afternoon, 3 or 4 o'clock, possibly as far north, maybe some light rain getting as far north as Kenai, more so back across western Cook Inlet there in the upslope areas of the western Alaska Range. Also pretty windy across the western Alaska Range there, pretty gusty winds across the Kuskokwim Valley, right on up into Norton Sound with periods of rain on up into about the Bering Strait, southward to Nunivak Island. And the front tomorrow afternoon, after it pushes through, those winds across Bristol Bay turn southwesterly and diminish. Winds diminishing here for the eastern Aleutians, also for the Alaska Peninsula. Most of the shower activity north in over the southeast Bering Sea. Some of that, though, catching the Nelson Lagoon, Cold Bay areas, maybe Falls Pass, drying out there for Nikolsky and Unalaska. And this next system, that moisture lifting north of the Aleutians there with that warm front, and then the cold front spreading some rain into the Shimei and Attu area late in the day. Otherwise, winds also on the increase here, really over the entire interior. It'll become windier throughout the day here with pretty good gradients starting to develop along the Alaska Range and back up to the north, but not all that strong. Stays light. Winds stay light here, Prince William Sound, all the way down across the Panhandle there into western Canada, southward to the Queen Charlottes, with high pressure edging its way eastward, but keeping it sunny there across all of that area. Sunshine over the interior and increasing clouds here, of course, in advance of the front. And for Sunday, that front really washes out as it pushes east. We're kind of in a split flow here, with that low center dropping off to the southeast, the other branch of the jet pulling back to the northwest. So this is what we're left with, kind of a area of clouds and areas of rain here along the coast, Prince William Sound, back into Cook Inlet. An area looks like it's going to shift north into the northern inlet and the valleys during the day and afternoon on Sunday, with that condition back to the northwest there, up to Kotzebue, Kivalina, Selawik, those areas, and stays kind of wet there over the Seward Peninsula, beginning to diminish later in the day. And then this warm front now pushing eastward, bringing some light rain into the southwest coast there. See, not much of a gradient with this thing, so winds aren't going to be any problem, but definitely a little wetter and cloudier, lower flying conditions, ceilings visibilities, and then the front coming across the Bering there. That's going to kick the winds up over the Pribilofs again with increasing chances for rain. Looks like just small craft advisories though, maybe gusts 30 to 40 miles an hour ahead of that front, and that's even weaker there as it drags across the central Aleutians. Showers behind that, and then the next low there coming onto the picture, probably moving into the southwest Bering Sea on Sunday night. For temperatures this afternoon, along the southeast coast, mid-afternoon temperatures mostly in the mid to upper 50s. Cape Spencer, 63 degrees today, warm spot in the state. Otherwise, more cloud showers, of course, cooler, lower upper 40s actually to mid 50s down in that area, upper 50s up to the north. 62 degrees in McCarthy this afternoon, and 56 Cordova with Valdez. 52, same thing at Seward. 50s, lower 50s, lower to mid 50s, Kenai Peninsula, mostly in the 40s up the valley. And also the Tanana Valley, looks like mid to upper 40s there, but Nenana up to 53 degrees. Farther north, not that much difference. 38 at Bettles, 45 for Yukon, and right near freezing there, or at freezing for both Anaktuvuk and Arctic Village. Mid 40s though, southerly flow all the way out to where it's 47 at Barrow this afternoon, 39 over at Barter Island, Point Lay up to 48. Mid 40s to lower 50s up here over the northwest interior, otherwise Seward Peninsula mostly in the mid 40s with the rain shifting northward there during the afternoon hours. Down to the south, mid 50s over the southwest interior. Out to the coastline, same thing for the Pribilofs, Alaska Peninsula, mid to upper 50s, and Unalaska up to 59, and a little cooler out west. For the lows tonight, teens and 20s, Copper River Basin up the eastern interior there. Till you hit the Brooks Range, the north of the mountains actually warmer, mid 30s, staying above freezing along much of the Arctic coast tonight, and upper 30s to lower 40s back to the southwest. Warmest conditions tonight along the Alaska Peninsula, mid to lower 50s. And high temperatures for tomorrow, looks like some lower 60s showing up here in those red areas there on the Alaska Peninsula. I think that's Pilot Point maybe, and mid 50s all the way up into the Kuskokwim Valley, upper 50s around Bethel. 35 to 40 up here through the Brooks Range, and 40s again along the Arctic coast. And temperatures for the Panhandle, mid 50s to lower 60s. Flying weather, VFR across all of the interior, down across the Panhandle. Lower stuff possible there along the central eastern Arctic coastal zones there, but North Slope looking good. And then IFR here showing up on the southern side of the Alaska Peninsula, and also beginning to slip up into the Kamishak Bay areas. Marginal VFR across the Barrens, Kodiak Island, more solid IFR out here over the Pribilofs northward to just south of St. Lawrence Island. And for tomorrow afternoon, that does rotate in toward the coast a little bit there. So IFR from Kipnuk right up across St. Lawrence Island, heading toward the Bering Strait, and also IFR on the increase now coming up on the west side of Cook Inlet along the Alaska Range, east side of Kodiak Island. Marginal VFR up the southern coast of the Kenai Peninsula. Probably won't make it into western Prince William Sound till later on. Otherwise VFR southeast coast, much of the interior except the central Arctic coastal areas. Anaktuvuk VFR tomorrow, no change really from yesterday, except Lake Clark and Merrill tomorrow. VFR then becoming marginal throughout the day and into the afternoon, especially on the eastern approaches of both passes. Windy VFR, staying open for windy and rainy, both VFR. Isabel VFR, Mentasta, Tanita, all of them, Portage, Chilkoot, and White VFR. And the freezing levels late tonight, tomorrow morning, 2,000 feet here over the Yukon, 6,000 feet down to the south, and then under upper high pressure shifting east, we've got 10,000 feet right up over south central Alaska, 8,000 feet all the way up, riding north on those southerly winds there, right up to Point Lay, and then behind the front as it starts to pull in on those westerlies right along the coast, a little bit cooler back to the west, but nothing serious. And tomorrow's icing above about 8,000 feet, areas of here. This won't be solid icing, light to very isolated moderate rain, possible Kodiak Island, back to the northwest toward the Bering Strait, St. Lawrence Island, and then again heading kind of ending from west to east or southwest to northeast. So the Pribilofs pretty much out of it tomorrow, as well as the Aleutians, maybe some icing threats coming into the western areas. And the jet stream looking like this, again, big area high pressure here, right up into the Arctic, but breaking down right through here as this tries to break through the southwesterly jet at about 120 knots, driving that front eastward, and that'll eventually push it on through on Sunday. Otherwise, northerly 60 knots there, keeps it dry over the southeast coast, all of the interior, with the upper low back over the Bering Sea. 9,000 foot winds, westerlies out here, 35 to 50 knots across the Bering Sea. Lighter for the Aleutians, and strongest winds southeast ahead of that front, 50 knots coming across Kodiak Island. Looks like 65 knots southeasterlies across the southwest interior. And those strong winds extend right up across Norton Sound and the Seward Peninsula. And windier conditions over the interior, southeast 15 to 25, staying quite light though for the southeast coast. 3,000 feet, same pattern here, 40 to 65 knots coming in across the Aleutian Range, Kodiak Island, and extending right up to eastern Norton Sound, again ahead of that frontal boundary, with even the 50 knots here associated with the main low back to the west across St. Lawrence Island. Westerlies 40 to 50 knots, central Bering Sea, 25 or so for the Aleutians. Light winds under basically high pressure ridge axis there for the southeast coast. Turbulence wise, well, no turbulence there, as well as the southeast interior, but again, as the winds increase here over the interior areas, could be some light to isolated moderate chop beginning to show up here, especially over the rougher terrain, Alaska Range, maybe back out that way, and along and on the lee side of the Brooks Range, western Arctic coast, possible severe here in these areas, northeast Bristol Bay and onto the northwest, mainly for small aircraft below about 5,000 feet, and then moderate turbulence with those northwesterlies there from the Pribilofs down across the eastern Aleutians. And after the break of Hangar Flying, I'll be back to look at the marine forecasts.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Mary O'Connor. On behalf of the Alaskan Aviation Safety Foundation, thank you to Alaska Public Media for sponsoring Hangar Flying. Tonight, we have Mike Hodges back on the program. He's an accident investigator with the National Transportation Safety Board here in Anchorage. Welcome back to Hangar Flying, Mike.
Thanks, Mary.
You had a safety alert regarding visual illusions published in March of this year. Can you tell us specifically what type of visual illusions are hazards to pilots?
Sure. Regarding this specific safety alert, we focused on flat light and whiteout conditions, which are pretty prevalent here in Alaska. And with flat light conditions, those are basically a visual illusion where the pilot has a hard time determining their distance, depth, and altitude. And that's usually over snow-covered terrain or large bodies of water. And with a whiteout situation, that's a situation where usually the snow comes up and the pilot has a hard time determining distance and depth and can become spatially disoriented.
So they're both common in snow conditions. Is there a way for pilots to always tell what the hazard is before they get into it?
Sure. One of the techniques, there's a few of them out there, is that pilots can do pre-mission planning and look at weather conditions, look at weather cameras we have up here in Alaska, utilize a formal risk assessment process and determine what type of terrain they're going to be flying over. And that right there kind of gives you that mental preparation if you know what you're going into before you actually begin the flight. Additionally, there's several items you can install on your airplane and helicopter that can help with these conditions, such as a terrain avoidance warning system, radar altimeters, onboard weather systems, and those are just a few examples of items that can help you in these type of situations.
And those are good things that pilots can do ahead of time while they're sitting on the ground, flight planning, or have previously installed in their aircraft. Are there other things that they can do? Say there's a possibility of encountering an environment where there might be flat light or whiteout conditions. Are there things that pilots can do to still ensure some form of safety?
Sure, just a few examples. Always look for and use multiple reference points when you're out there flying.
And what exactly does that mean?
That could be a visual reference point. That could be a rock, a boulder, a car sitting out in the distance, a light pole, just something that you can visualize from your position and understand your distance and depth. That really helps. And having multiple visual reference points is key.
Okay.
In addition to doing that, you can look for shoring, with bodies of water. That definitely helps you determine the horizon and where you're at. You can also drop things from the airplane or helicopter, such as weighted bags with flags on them. That kind of determines how far above the ground you are. And those are just a few examples of techniques you can do while you're in flight to determine or kind of understand where you're at and where you're going, if you will.
So it would make sense for a pilot who knew they might encounter these conditions to even have some flagging attached to rocks in advance, being prepared for such a situation.
Definitely, definitely.
Okay, so that could even be carried in a survival gear bag or situation, right?
Definitely, yep.
Okay. The safety alerts are available on a website
Correct.
with the National Transportation Safety Board. Can you tell us where they might find this information?
Sure. If you go to our website, it's at www.ntsb.gov, and if you go on there, we have a large section for safety alerts and safety studies, and we actually have safety alert videos. You can go on there, and it's really good outreach material for pilots and mechanics and other folks involved in aviation.
Thank you. The safety alerts that you have recently done, was there anything that prompted you to look at these issues, or was there a reason specifically that you chose visual illusions?
Sure. With the visual illusions safety alert, flying up in Fairbanks a couple of years ago, flying helicopters, I was familiar with the concepts of flat light and whiteout conditions on a personal level. And then about a year ago, I did an accident up south of Dead Horse. It was a helicopter accident where the pilot got into flat light and whiteout conditions, and the helicopter had substantial damage, and thankfully the pilot wasn't injured. But that kind of got, for me at my level, that kind of got the ball rolling with doing some sort of outreach and putting the message out there for the folks so they have something they can use on a daily basis.
Okay. Is it more common in different parts of Alaska, the interior versus a more mountainous region like the southeast?
Anywhere where there's snow and there's large bodies of water, so that could be a lake, that could be the ocean, that could be a bay. It's kind of all over the state.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for your information.
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure having you on the show. We look forward to having you back to talk about your next safety alert with foreign object debris. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, we hope you've enjoyed our program and enjoyed the information that Mike Hodges has provided with the National Transportation Safety Board and their safety alerts. We appreciate your support. Thank you for watching Hangar Flying. Until next time, fly safely.
Welcome back. Today's sea ice analysis, a little different now from the last several days. Just some very marginal ice here from about Barrow, just a short ways down the coast. We can see breaking up a little bit with the heavier ice now gone, and this off the coast. And with the wind conditions forecast over the next several days, looks like for the next 4 or 5 days, this will definitely be by Tuesday or Wednesday, this whole thing will be off the coast and up to the north and kind of dissipated from what it is. So looking at the coastal forecasts, well, south central Alaska tomorrow, Cook Inlet, northeast 15, picking up to 25 knots south of the Forelands. Good gales, Kodiak Island. Southeast for the Barrens there, easterlies 40 knots, Kamishak Bay, and even 35 knots for Shelikof Strait. Light variable winds again for Prince William Sound, but southeast 15 for the North Gulf Coast, picking up to 20 knots, and then right into the gale warnings there for the Barrens. And I'm not sure where tomorrow's forecast went for the southeast coast, but for Sunday, southeast winds 20 knots all along the coastline there. So that's kind of an increase from tomorrow, and southeast at about 15. Staying light here over the inside channels. Clarence Strait about the only change there, becoming southeast at 15, but pretty light winds up to the north. And gosh, that's, I guess, for Sunday. Let's bounce by that one. Okay, that is strange. Anyway, for Sunday here, Kodiak Island, coming down to small craft advisories, winds turn northwest. Easterlies, though, for the Barrens at 30 knots, and small craft advisories for those winds out of the east, right along the North Gulf Coast, seas at about 11 feet. And northeast 15, not too bad there for Prince William Sound. Small craft advisories, southern Cook Inlet into the Kamishak Bay area. Northern Cook Inlet now northeast up to 20. Bristol Bay, good gales coming in ahead of the front there, 45 knots, extending down southwest of Kodiak Island. Behind the front, west-southwest coming down 30 to 35. And then for Sunday, even lighter winds, westerlies 20 to 25 for the peninsula, 20 knots Bristol Bay, northwest 30, gradually diminishing there southwest of Kodiak. The eastern Aleutians, gales tomorrow, northwest 35 to 40 knots, becoming more westerly down to small craft advisory, central Aleutians, southwest 30 out to the west. And then a little bit of an increase here on Sunday, southwest 30, west southwesterlies 30 right in toward Nikolsky, but 20 to 25 for the Unalaska Island area. And southwest coast, gales tomorrow, southeast 40, westerlies 40 knots behind that front from the Pribilofs up to St. Matthew Island. And next day, Sunday, southerlies 25 to 30 knots here out over the Bering Sea, and south to southwest 25 to 30 on the southwest coast, southwest 30 now for St. Lawrence Island. Up along the Arctic coast, small craft advisories, easterlies 25 to as high as 30 knots here on the east side, with 25 to 30 knot easterlies here, really extending across the entire area there on down toward the Bering Strait, where 8 to 9 foot seas are in the forecast. Then for Sunday, no change here. Small craft advisories continue. Easterly 20 for that coastline, and then small craft advisories there from the central coast all the way east to demarcation point 25 up to 30 knots. Notice the seas here 8 to 9 feet. And then for tonight, though, fair skies, light winds all the way up to the Arctic coast there. This front bringing storm force winds into the southwest coast with rain heavy at times down across the Alaska Peninsula. And then for tomorrow, that advances slowly eastward there. So rain and wind, Kodiak Island, spreading into southern Cook Inlet, across Kuskokwim Valley, up across Norton Sound, with gusty winds, showers here right across the Alaska Peninsula, diminishing there for the eastern Aleutians. This next system brings more wind and rain into the Pribilofs, some rain with a warm front. The original front here, split flow, this portion going northward, and this area dropping off to the southeast. So just areas of rain coming across the southern Alaska area.
These forecasts are to be used for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating. Alaska Weather is made possible by the following sponsors.
The National Weather Service.
Alyeska Pipeline Service Company, fueling philanthropic programs and dedicated to creating educational and professional opportunities for Alaska Native people.